We hope that you had a good week of rest so that we can move on into the actual work of revising, editing, and proofreading. We can review your journey from the time you started the writing class. In the pre-writing phase, you looked at the ideas that you had, the content that you had. You did a bit of research. Then you moved on to the actual or the drafting stage, where you put those ideas together and put your research together to be able to have the first draft. So we can look at revising. In this stage, we are looking at you being able to move the chapters around. Feel free to look at the flow of your work. First chapter can become the second chapter or the last chapter. The middle chapter can become the first chapter. So it is absolutely okay for you to be able to move the chapters around to ensure that you achieve the flow that you want. You can also feel free to add the new content. These are chapters. You can introduce a new chapter at this point. You can introduce a new story, a theme. So feel free to add anything that you feel is not working in the manuscript as it is right now. You can also feel free to delete irrelevant chapters. Sometimes when we are writing, we get carried away with excitement and we start putting stories that are actually not relevant or they are not building towards our story. At this point, feel free to delete those chapters or the content that you feel is not relevant for your manuscript at this time. We'll look at the tips to help you to revise your work. The first one is at this point, you should be able to listen to your text on audio, and you can do that by yourself where you read your text out aloud. If you're not able to do that, or if you're not interested to go that route, you could also ask somebody else to be able to read for you the text aloud, and you'll be able to hear whether the flow is going on well, whether the stories are well completed. And if you don't have somebody to be able to do that for you, you can also use technology. There are links we've supplied for you or recommended to you in the actual notes. So you can use, for example, the voiceover in Microsoft Word or even in Apple and be able to hear your book being read out by the voiceover there. And so you'll be able to hear whether the text is flowing the way you'd want or it's something that you'd want to change. You should also have fresh perspective at this point. Just make sure that you're looking at your work with fresh eyes. At the beginning, during the actual writing, we encourage you not to criticize yourself. This is now the point where you should criticize yourself. Just ask yourself, why did I write this? Did I need to put this story or that story? Just criticize, is this idea even relevant for this book? And of course, don't go overboard, but feel free to ask yourself questions. Why am I doing this? What is it that I'm doing? What are the objectives that I want to achieve? You should also use the feedback from your reviewer. By this time, you should have received feedback from CLC Kenya on things that you should improve on. Sometimes we would say the content is shallow or the content is too short. Sometimes you've written a chapter and it's only maybe 2-3 pages and we feel it's not consistent with the rest of the document or the manuscript. So at this point, just make sure you keenly pay attention to the feedback that you have received and be able to incorporate and revise your manuscript again. You should also have received feedback from a peer reviewer from your class. This is somebody who is also in the writing stage or phase that you're in, and so they'll be able to tell you their general feedback. Just make sure that you incorporate anything that you feel is relevant to improve your manuscript.